right.
Oh, I just heard myself.
Where did you say you count down from?
We start
Very
the
beginning.
The
The Splash, the Disney
We'll do it.
Splash.
Yeah, we'll watch
Watch
both of
recaps.
the intro things. Now your video went wonky there, Dawn.
Oh,
No,
Let's
she's
see if
fine
we-
now.
if you grab that pillow or whatever the chair is what you did, right?
what did I do? Oh,
Yeah, you got the
pillow.
chair. Yeah, you got
The orange
it was
pillow.
the chair. I think it was the chair. You got up and that worked.
No, we're
There you go.
Oh no, it went away again.
no.
I think it's when you got up and moved out of the way and did like
I
this
screwed it all up.
is when you did it.
Let's see. Okay, do the.
Or was it
So
the
everybody
blanket
joining
on the
us, just
the
bear with us
blanket
a
that was on the
moment. We're
chair?
having some green screeny issues.
I was going to say, Dawn's got this take-home green screen thing going on.
That keeps coming back. And that's
All
a
right.
little
See, you're not working
you have
from
sparkly
home
hair.
technology.
Well, Leilani says she loves her Dawn. She's already in the chat right now.
Tell her I love her too.
She loves you, Leilani. Hi, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of the Virtual Cantina Watch Along as we are watching Mandalorian Season 3. I am Spencer. I am one of your hosts for the evening. Our producer for the night is Dave Baca. Dave, how are you?
Hey, I can't do it right now. The throat with I was going to do it. It didn't
Okay.
happen.
Well, you're going to do your Bible Freak. And then we got below, we got El Jefe, Jeff Solo. How are you, Jeff?
All right, good to be here. Glad we have
And we got the dirty pirate down there, John Anaka. John, how are you?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. I'm looking forward to this evening.
So we're very excited about this evening. Obviously, we're getting really, really excited. Bunta Eve is, no pun intended, is 4 weeks from tonight. So looking forward to seeing everybody in London, getting excited for all our events. You know, we have a lot of original trilogy actors announced to be some of our guests at Bunta Eve. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. And we got more names coming this coming Monday. So please take a look at all of our socials to find out about that. But let's jump right into it because we have a very special guest tonight. We talk all the time that in Star Wars these days, your resident droid is CRISPR. Now,
Yeah.
your resident Rhodian is our guest, Dawn Deininger. How are you, Dawn? How are you tonight?
I'm great. It's great to be here. It's going to be very fun. So I'm excited.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And if you have a question for Dawn, Jeff and Dave, or Dave and Jeff, or whatever, how would you find?
I get it right.
Jay, is it back to that? Def and
Yes.
Jay?
I couldn't even say it. Yeah,
So
make sure you
if
pick.
you have a question for Dawn
Yeah.
this evening, you can, of course, over here in the Facebook feed and over on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/the Virtual Cantina Network. Either or, we're monitoring both chats. Put it in there, and we will ask the question at an appropriate time.
Perfect.
So first and foremost, Dawn, what was your first memory of Star Wars?
My first memory was I was a little kid, so we didn't really see the movie yet because I think I was about 5, but I still hadn't seen it. But I just remember R2-D2 and C-3PO the most, you know, and then after that, it was Princess Leia. And then when I finally saw it, you know, it was fun. And I don't know how I knew what they looked like. It must have just been trailers or something, but those were the characters that stuck out in my head.
That's the earliest memories for a lot of us, and we were so excited to have this part of our lives in our childhood. And one of the things that I found very, very exciting about looking through your career, and you've done an incredible amount of work with projects such as, I'm going back to a lot of the movies in the MCU, some X-Men movies, got Total Recall, you got Ted 2, Suicide Squad, you got such a array of projects out there. As a fan in general, how's it feel to, seeing your craft being portrayed in so many different genres and different areas that, is part of pop culture today?
It's really cool actually to see everything on screen that you work so hard to get to work on just some of the bigger films. And I've been lucky to have worked on a lot of really big things and then get to see what I actually built up on the big screen. Is just, it's fun and it's surreal when it first happens, but every time, even now, I get very excited to see something that I've worked on, that's on TV or at the movies, anything. It's exciting.
So obviously, for those who don't know, Dawn works for Legacy Effects, which does a lot of the creature creation and designs for Mandalorian and a lot of the Star Wars properties. So when you first found out about the child, what was, as an old school fan, what was your inner thought process when you heard that they were doing this Baby Yoda, if you want to call it that, before we knew that was going to be Grogu? I didn't know what it was that it was gonna be in there. When you walk past people's tables and they're working on different things, you start to see things coming together, and then you're like, what's that? What's that for? What's that gonna be? And then as it comes together, you're like, oh, that thing's pretty cute, and then I knew people were gonna like it, but I didn't realize how much he was gonna go viral. And I liked regular Yoda. So when I saw the Baby Yoda, he was so cute. And then the first time I saw him just move and blink, and he's just as cute in real life and seems really real in real life too. So that's incredible. Everybody was saying, we had guests in the past, were saying that, just seeing it in real life and how they reacted to it and how, the puppeteers were able to get it to go. It is the Baby Yoda show, if you want it, for lack of a better word. You see those memes everywhere,
Yeah.
He is Star Wars now, which is.
Oh, definitей. And
awesome.
when you hold him, you can't help but, you start holding him like this and you start realize you're bouncing like you're holding a baby, and he's got the weight of a baby. So you forget that when you're holding him, that it's just like a puppet.
Recently, I know they did it a few weeks ago in Disneyland, but Disney World recently had, for the start of season 3, they put Mandalorian and Baby Yoda in Batu, and now you're getting literally dozens of people just ganging around, and he can barely walk anywhere. It just shows the popularity of that character, right?
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that at Disney World or Disneyland too. So I was like, oh, it's really cute. Yeah.
That puppet that they have there is amazing. I don't know who's running it. What cast member, if it's the actual costumed cast member, if it's one of his handlers or what, but there's a lot going on with Grogu while he's kicking it in the pouch there when Mando's walking through Batu.
I love the stuff that they always do there, because they always find some really creative way to make something move, or just the way that their stormtroopers even work on how they make them say certain things, how they do a certain motion and it makes it say, one line. And so I would love to see inside that thing and see how they make that all work.
So how did you get started with Legacy?
I knew when I was 15, I figured out this is what I wanted to do for a living, was to make creatures or monsters. I met somebody who worked on doing this as a job, because a friend of mine had been a background actor in a movie. And so I was like, I can put my art classes and my scary movies all together in one thing. And so from then on, I knew what I wanted to do. And then when I moved out to Southern California, I just kept, trying to get hired at different places. And eventually I worked my way up to Stan Winston's, which eventually became Legacy Effects.
That's awesome. And has this been like a dream job for you, like the projects you've been working on and just being a part of like everything that's out there right now?
Yeah, it actually has been a dream job. One time my nephew asked me, he goes, if you weren't doing what you were doing, or what would you do? Or, what's your ideal job? And I said, I'm doing it. And I remember somebody standing there at the time was like, that's amazing. You're actually doing what you want to do. And I was like, yeah, it's like my ideal job.
So I have a question for you. I think you have the best title in the world, right? Or one of the best titles in the world, Master Character Fabricator. I think that's amazing. I'm so jealous of that title. Anyway, and I could just see you at 15, probably in your mom's kitchen, wrapping kind of white sheets around somebody's head and dripping blood and all that kind of stuff. Just to really learn the craft, right? But
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh,
yeah.
And doing just Halloween costumes, I would just do like go get the Halloween makeup and try to just make weird stuff, so it was fun.
Exactly. But I understand that you, through your work with ILMFX, you worked with Devin Ryan. So can you tell us a little bit about your work with Devin and how that influenced you and how it progressed you in this particular craft?
Devin was my mentor. So when I moved out to Northern California, I was contacting all kinds of places to see if, I could intern there, I could do whatever. And I came across this company. So I called him and he said, send me a letter. Let me know why you want to do this, where you want to be in your career later on. Like he made me jump through some hoops to talk to him. And then he said, all right, I'll teach you. And so every weekend I would drive an hour and a half each way and just to learn from him. And so I was pretty lucky.
That's so cool. For anybody that ever worked on Blade Runner has to be super, super talented, because that is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's things he would tell me, and like some stuff you're like, this is too cool. That can't be true. And you're like,
No, it's always awesome to hear those sort of stories and see how things progress and where they come from, and then applying some of that knowledge and going to other areas. So we are going to be watching tonight at the top of the hour, which is about 11 minutes from now, season 3, episode 2, which is chapter 18 of The Mandalorian. So please make sure that if you have the D+ machine all queued up, we will start at the top of the hour with a 10-second countdown at the Disney Splash and talk about season 2 and the episode in general. So Dawn, I'm curious to know Mandalorian pretty much was the kickoff for Disney Plus. I mean, when they first did the launch, that was the flagship from there. And since then, as us fans like to say, the Filoniverse has exploded everywhere. How's it been behind the scenes, knowing with all these projects and everything that's going on, that this one element has branched off in more ways than anything could possibly imagine?
Yeah, I was excited to just work on The Mandalorian, because Star Wars, I didn't think I'd ever work on it because they're always done in London or England. And so when this came along, I was actually shocked and surprised I'd ever get to do anything. And then when I got to build stuff for it, we got to build a Mando suit, and Grogu got made at the shop, and then just all the other creatures that we made. It was very exciting. Then when we got to set, I was like, you know what? If we don't work on any more of these, we worked on the first one, and it's got to be one of the coolest ones because it's the first one. And then I've been lucky to be attached to all of them, but I still didn't know it was going to branch out into like so many different things, to Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. So it's exciting. It's fun to be a part of all of them.
Were you able to get to Anaheim for a celebration last year and see the Mandalorian experience exhibit that they had over there?
I did. We had to help get some of our characters back onto some body forms and get them sent down there. And then I did go and check it out. So it was very, very cool.
So a lot of our fans went there and, speak wonders about it and how incredible it was, seeing how different, outfits work, how the ships work, how many different things, especially, seeing the Cad Bane mechanics of the head as well. And also some of the creatures that John Rosengrant performed in both Fett and in Mandalorian. So with what was exhibited there, was there any of the projects that you had a direct hand in that were exhibited in that exhibit?
Yes. Frog Lady was there. And so mainly my friend Tamara did her costume, but I did the shoes and helped puppeteer that one. And then Black Chrysanthemum. Yes, so with Misty. And then Black Chrysanthemum, and he's one of the favorite things that I've ever built because it takes a bunch of us to do it, but I had a really big hand in that to where I got to do most of the fabrication on him. And so I was really nervous about if people were going to like him when we went to set, when we had to get like the final approval. And I was so nervous because I wanted people to like him so much. So I was so happy when I saw people's reactions the first time they saw him on set. And who else was there? Heavy Mando, had a hand in him. Then Mando. Yeah. Who else was there? Yeah, it was fun to see all those creatures in one space at the same time. That was the coolest part about that display.
Yeah. Huge kudos as well, for that actually happening in Anaheim. I think it's probably the only convention I've been to that has actually brought some of the production set used, or maybe even conceptual designs of those, but they were brought there, and that was just, I remember thinking, wow, I've never seen this before. I've never been able to kind of go into a room and almost feel it and touch it, and that was just a huge love letter to us as fans. And I just want to say real quick, if you worked on Black Chrysanthemum, Stuart Freeborn and his team, they kind of worked on the original Chewbacca costume. So I'm just wondering if some of the techniques that they used to create that suit for Peter Mayhew is probably still there for creating that character.
I just made it over techniques I've used over the last years, but I bet some of them are the same because sometimes we get the ILM assets because I'll help dress background creatures in their suits. So when we get them out of the crates, we get to look at them too, and we get to see how they build stuff, and we'll be like, oh, look, they did this exactly like we do. Or we'll be like, oh, I think I'm going to start doing it that way too. Like you learn stuff from them, and then, so I'm sure there's some similar techniques.
So when you guys were working on the conception of Chrysanthemum and bringing that to live action, did you get a lot of source material from like the comic books and everything and some of the lore of Chrysanthemum to make it as close as it was to, how we envisioned it, or was it completely like starting scratch and going that route?
I get handed the designs. So Doug Chang does a lot of the designs, and if they need little things changed on it, like we also have our design department at Legacy, so they do a lot of design stuff too. And then so I just get the drawing of what they want, and then we have to figure out how to make it from that.
I think I've lost count of the amount of times that we've had guests on like you that have said Doug Chan's kind of concepts and sketches are just what makes it all real. So it's great to hear that.
Yeah, it's so cool to see the stuff that he comes up with, and he's so talented, so it's so cool. And sometimes too, you can ask him why something is a certain way, because Black Chrysanthemum had this thing on his belt, and I was like, what is that? I can't really tell what it is and what we're really making. And then they were scalps basically of other Wookiees. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I think for me, Doug's work is very akin to Ralph McQuarrie's original work. You know, it's just so special.
Yeah. So Don, I think you may
need
have
to do
to
my
stop
pillow
and
trick.
adjust your. Oh, there you go. You
So-
back in.
We have 3 minutes before we start this week's episode, which is season 3, episode 2. But before we get into that episode, I have to ask a question because it's not in tonight's episode. So, as per the background we have right behind you, you played a Rhodian alien in Book of Boba Fett. Now, what I really want to know is, so there's that memorable scene where both Boba and the Rhodian alien get attacked by the sand creature, the behemoth, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure. It actually has a title. Did you create that? Were you killed by the thing that you created for that scene?
I did not get to create that.
Ah.
That would have been fun though.
I think my favorite meme that I saw of your character was when you were captured and you're looking at Mando and someone wrote "first time here" underneath it, which I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But it's amazing, especially seeing the various Rhodians that you played. And it's a great callback to obviously to A New Hope with Greedo. I mean, it's a legacy creature. How's that feel? Being a fan of the O2.
Okay, the best thing that happened was this last weekend when I was in London at the Comic-Con, and Greedo, Paul Blake wasn't there the first day. He was there the second day. So I just went in, sat down at the table, and then he happened to walk by right then, and he looked over at me, and he came over and gave me a really big hug and was like, us Rhodians, we need to stick together. And so I just loved him from then on. And then I was so excited. I was like, I ate lunch with Greedo, and I was so excited.
Okay, so we have to ask the question right now. Who shot first, Greedo or Han?
Oh, I don't know.
I tell you what, though, those hands that you have to wear, but I think you were digging in the sand.
Yeah.
Those must be terrible.
They're silicone, and so they're very floppy. So I had to dig sideways to.
No.
That's gonna be a running joke.
Bring it back. Here we go.
Almost. Well.
Oh.
Sort of.
Okay.
So let me ask you this: I think maybe we don't see this as like people not in the industry, but maybe it is. Our impression would be that a lot of fabricators and creature fabricators in classic Hollywood and even before, probably even maybe in the original trilogy, that we're seeing a little different. The fabricators are making costumes for actors, but the more and more we talk to people on the Mandalorian and involved in the Book of Boba Fett and things like that, the creature fabricators are also those who are puppeting and in the costumes. Has that always been the case and we didn't know it, or is that a new thing and going more in that direction?
It's something that has been happening, but just not all the time. There'll tend to be, I feel like it's happening more and more recently. And because we'll be at the shop, and the way I got into it was that they would try everything on me if the person was my size. And then they started to realize that I could wear that stuff without, getting claustrophobic, and I could handle it. And then, so it just slowly over time, I think one time they asked it for a commercial, if they knew anybody, they didn't want to audition people. And I was already trying the suit on and doing all the fittings. They were like, well, what about Dawn? And so they were like, sure, let's try it. And then after that, now I sometimes they'll recommend me, but I audition and see if I get it, or send them my reel. And one of my favorite things is how Rick Baker and all those effects artists were canteen, the band, they're all the Biffs. And so when they asked me to play the Biff playing the oboe, I was just like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I feel like I'm following in their footsteps.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta ask this one question. How is it every time there's some sort of disaster, Max Rebo like escapes out the back door? Like seriously, it's like,
I know. See, that night he wasn't in the band.
I guess he had a night off.
He had a night off. He wasn't in the band, so I died.
Now the skiff the last second, so it's kind of like, I know. That was the one question we're all asking. Like, wait a minute. But anyway, we're at the top of the hour right now, so we're going to be watching season 3, episode 2, which is the most recent episode. What a great week for Star Wars, because Bad Batch was absolutely incredible as well this week, which we'll talk about on Tuesday. Maybe watch it. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to start with the 10-second countdown. Yeah, I know, Dave. So we're going to start the Disney Splash in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
Yeah, the recap just opens with it's like down. You're like, whoa.
You got Judgment Day as soon as you start the yeah. That's the one thing we were saying. Is like it seemed like very taken from Terminator 2 when you saw like the K2 droids walking through the remnants of Mandalore.
Oh yeah,
explosion there. It's just, wow.
Well, it's like the kind of thing that we discussed on the Unifying Force, which is, movies are now our fairy tales in our current modern mythology. So the way George would have taken from classic mythology is the creators now, Dave, John, and everybody is taking from that more modern mythology as well.
Right.
See the raindrops on the Mando helmet right there, I think are still one of my favorite details from this season.
I liked that too. I was actually noticing that when I watched it too.
Yeah. No spoiler alerts, but what I liked about this intro, there was a little reminder from the armorer about a certain mythical creature that might bring back Mandalore to what it should be. I like that.
Okay, so we got Tokyo Drift going on over here.
Oh, absolutely.
A little Boonta action.
Always pod racing right there.
There you are, Don. First,
First.
How was it working with Amy? Is she as funny as she is on screen?
Oh yeah, the seasons before I already knew how funny she was because she's hilarious. And when we were doing the scenes, I was just doing some made up Rhodian language, but then she wouldn't know like if my sentence was done or like when her next line was. So finally they wrote me some English lines really fast.
That's awesome. I think one of my favorite, so I watch a lot when I'm prepping for these shows, I watch a lot of like Screen Crush and Theory and all that.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
And my favorite thing from Screen Crush this past week was, in this season, Palimoto doesn't have a tooth. I'm sure they'll do a story about that some other time. Maybe they'll come like, dude, did you even watch
what? He did recaps on Book of Boba Fett. It's like, come on, what you're not paying attention?
Yeah,
I guess other people are doing all the research, and he's just the top.
Interesting, because I know it's not his favorite show. That one.
Do you know why I think
that was one of the best episodes, though? So
why
I think
Leilani and Ariel.
Yep, Leilani and Ariel and Susanna.
Yep. And congratulations to Ariel for getting a cast credit now. The end of the show. So great job there. Like, it's so awesome to see them getting their credit for them.
So let me ask you this: in the Rhodian costume, there is emoting in that. Is the proboscis? Is it like mechanized?
That's not animatronic. But so that was all CG done after the fact.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, we just skipped over the fact that she talked about get ready. It's Boone to Eve, and that's the first time I did the Leo DiCaprio at 3:00 in the morning. I was like, and Leilani actually texted me at 3:15 and said, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Oh my god!
Oh my gosh, that's so funny."
And we see Grogu do, his flip out, which is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, I like that because it's kind of like Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually one of the things that I think they talked on Screen Crush as well, is that was just like Yoda in the prequels doing the flips.
Yeah.
I think Amy's perfect for this role because she's so good at improv. I think, that's just the perfect character for her.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes she does a little improv, and it's just so funny because you forget she doesn't look like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at her, like you look at like when
good Jawaese,
and she looks her regular self in Elf, and then you see her list, you're like, what? Is that the same actress? Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But I love the fact also here, if for everybody who's watching at home, how she's talking about, we get a little bit too drunk at Bunta, and I'm kind of like, that sounds very familiar.
It's a little, that's close to home right there.
To one of our events.
Somebody got a little too drunk at Bunta, and that would be me and that guy and this guy. And
if you didn't know, at our last Bunta, Misty got up and took the microphone and sang a few things for us. So.
Oh, nice.
I love the fact, especially with having R5 there and going back, targeting to the first gallery when Dave was looking at the droid, saying you got to muck this up because you got to show where the motivator exploded in A New Hope, and the attention to detail to like the whole lore is absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love that he does that, and props when they're building stuff, they really think about that stuff too.
So when you're building characters and creature costumes, how often do you like reuse a costume and modify or redress it? Or are you guys at this point to keep all characters unique? Are you making a new mold for each creature?
Sometimes we might use the same mold, paint it differently, or add a couple of things to it to change it up. But sometimes there's some things that get, they're very similar to a previous character, just a little, like you said, modified.
So if you have any questions for Don, please put it in the chat. We're monitoring both the VCN and also on Facebook as well.
Well, we've got one right now. Is Bruce is asking that, just what are you thinking? Like we were talking about the DiCaprio moment. What do you see? How amazing, exciting is it the first time that you see the completed work or the episode that you've created something in on screen?
It's great because you see it all put together instead of, all its separate pieces. And then some parts of it you didn't see because we had 2 units going on. So you might be on the first unit and somebody else is on, second unit. So you don't see everything that comes together. And I don't usually get the full script either. So then I get to see things that I don't even know are going to happen.
It's interesting, just harking back to a few seconds ago, throughout the season so far, Mandalorian's never trusted a droid or an astromech droid. Now he's trusting one.
I know, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Beyond IG-11.
Relationship has changed because of IG-11.
Yep.
I think that was it. That was the watershed moment.
Then, spoiler alert, his hatred for droids is reconfirmed, although.
Well, yes.
But
yeah, I hope and I think I'm sure, because I have faith that we'll see later down the line that we kind of revisit the previous storyline. Just this struck me as it went too quickly because he had to abandon using IG and is going on to R5, I want more of that back to where it's like, I can't get the part I need to get a part. I've still got to find something to where he gets back to IG. That happened a little too quickly for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably the only criticism that I could possibly have of this whole deal. But
so we got an entire planet made of kryptonite over here.
Yeah, it's the Fortress of Solitude is what I was thinking when they're pulling in.
But you have, Dave, to your point, you have to trust the Jawas. The Jawa said you can't get those parts. Right? So he's forgotten about IG now. He's on to the next droid that can help him.
I think there's Mando and IG like a buddy cop spinoff or something coming.
So Sherry wants to know if we'll have fireworks like that at Boonta Eve.
Oh, I hope you do.
Harry,
I don't know if it's in the budget.
The 47K graphic that, for the record, was created independent and before this episode had dropped and before we had seen it.
Very eerily similar to that scene where Mando's flying away during Boonta Eve.
Yes.
And it being Boonta Eve, and we have a graphic that has fireworks and the N1 in it, with Mando in the corner with Grogu. That's very, very, this sort of kismet.
That was all created by our friend Jake. And Jake, I don't know, unless Jake is holding out on us. Jake doesn't have any ins with the Lucasfilm.
I'm like, wait.
What did holding out on? So
So here's a question for you. One of the things that Dave loves to talk about is, besides his affinity for Plo Koon, is the swerve from the finale of season 2 when they were trying to say that it was Plo Koon on set, but it was really Luke. When you found out that it was actually going to be Luke, what was your impression?
Oh, I was so excited, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything that's in that scene, I'm not puppeteering anything. So I was like, oh, how do I get on there? And I was like to the guys, sometimes I help puppeteer Grogu, but it's our main guys that do it. And then there's times where we need 5 or 6 people. And so Tamara and I will jump in and help. And so I was like, don't you guys need some help? I can run back and forth and get supplies. And then I got told by a friend of mine on set who's, had to say, well, it's a closed set today, so sorry, you're gonna have to leave. And I was like, no. And she was like, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. So I got to see him, later on, so I was happy.
Oh yeah,
that was incredible. And the funny thing was, as a fan, we were all theorizing, okay, who's going to be the Jedi to call it? And I think a lot of us in the back of our mind knew it was probably going to be Luke, but didn't really want it to be Luke until we actually saw him.
Yeah.
So it was nice, it was nice, and it was refreshing to see, as I call it, Skywalker Prime. You're seeing him at his most powerful, right after the Jedi, and seeing him being the one that can train Grogu is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I liked that decision.
Well, I've been lucky enough to meet Mark Hamill in person once, and I just couldn't speak. I mean, I just didn't know what to say. I mean, and I'm very happy and confident talking to anybody, but I just literally didn't know what to say to him. Just thought, was this guy got nothing to say?
I met him twice and had that problem both times.
Oh,
so John, you're the age. Are these the Morlocks from Time Machine in the 1960s?
They are not, but it's very reminiscent, right?
That's what I was thinking, right?
They live underground, and I was like, they're much shorter.
Right.
But I did work on these and helped build them and puppeteer their faces.
Yeah.
But when you guys were working on that, was the thought process that people were going to harken back to the Morlocks? Was that ever brought up?
No.
Wow.
But they reminded me of that. So I thought that was really funny that you said that.
They give off a very kind of early monster kind of vibe that you would get from the 60s sci-fi or something.
And that movie has to be in my top 10 movies of all time. That the 1960s Time Machine is absolutely still a classic in my mind.
Oh, yeah. I remember when my dad made me watch that, and I actually enjoyed it too. I thought it was pretty fun. So,
right.
My 7-year-old self was literally having nightmares watching that stuff afterwards.
My brothers used to make me watch all kinds
that you're responsible for that stuff, Dawn. I'm telling you.
I know. I love it.
You are creating childhood trauma as we speak, but in
Yeah.
the best possible
When
way.
I've played something scary before, I went to the theater to see it because there wasn't really a screening for it. And I also wanted to see if I scared people in the crowd. So when they got scared, I was so happy.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'm causing trauma and sending people
Mission
to therapy.
accomplished.
This is awesome.
Who would you say is like your scariest creature? Is I think you were in a werewolf in a movie.
Oh, I played a werewolf, but that was more of a cutesy werewolf because that
Okay.
was a kid show movie. But I played Monster Marie in One Missed Call. It was I think it was a remake of a Japanese film.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we tried to do it over here and
Very cool.
wasn't quite as successful.
So, do any characters that you've either played or created have action figures yet?
Dave's a fan of action figures. If you have,
I like action figures too. I'm like, there's got to be because I wonder if the Blob from X-Men ever got an action figure. I remember he was a little people will bring me stuff when they see things that I've worked on too. So it'll be little figures, but not a real action figure.
I love the fact you mentioned. I love the fact you mentioned that because everybody calls me like Bud, and I said, "Did you just call me Blob?" Like from that scene, I'm like, "Oh my god, that's awesome!" The fact that you were involved in that movie, how exciting is it right now that we're going to have with Deadpool 3? You're going to have Ryan and Hugh back together, doing the characters, I think, correctly. In almost like a buddy cop movie. That's gonna be absolutely incredible.
Oh my god, that's gonna be so great. The Ryan Reynolds parts of the movie I wasn't on set for, so I didn't get to meet him. But I got to meet Hugh, and he's the nicest person ever. And to every single crew member, he is so nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
did you know that Ryan Reynolds? Ryan Reynolds is more famous in the UK right now for buying a soccer club than for actually being Ryan Reynolds. See?
And I asked somebody about it when I was over there too.
Wrexham, yeah. I was lucky enough to meet Peter Bogdanovich years and years ago, and he talked about Ryan Reynolds being supremely talented.
Oh, he's just so funny.
And I love the fact that at the end of Deadpool 2, he goes back and kills his self in the Origins.
Yeah.
And does his.
And then that's the one thing I don't get is if you saw the review on IGN of this episode, they were complaining about the lighting in these scenes, and I'm like, it's the ambiance. I mean, I don't understand why you're complaining about it.
It's a mine.
Well,
exactly.
It seems to be dark.
If you've ever been down a mine, which I have, you can't even see the hand in front of your face. It's that bad.
They're also making use of an accessory that comes with the Black Series helmet that I was like, why is there this weird light that attaches to the side of the Black?
You mean the one that I called you because I didn't know how to attach to my helmet?
How does this work? And I was like, I'm not sure. I think it's easy. I don't remember.
Yeah, I like that they used that too, because you never get to see it.
So
that's the one thing we like is the fact that the knee rockets from FET, being used, and you have the light here on the helmet. It's
that
like
took 40 years.
The only thing I would say about this sequence is I was just, not that it was my principal thought, but is this volume? Is this some of it? What's the word I'm looking for?
Practical?
Real set? Practical set. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a practical set. And then can't remember if we went into the volume for parts of this or not, but there was a practical cave set.
Right. So first off, hey Phil Tippett, like, oh my god, like that was the first thing I saw there. Is you got this, eye that looks like Grievous first and foremost, but you get the stop motion spider. It's like so cool.
They made the big giant spider thing at Legacy too.
Wow.
They did a bang up job. It was really creepy.
Yeah.
It keeps evoking different things as this scene continues. It's very.
See, when we think it's creepy, you guys are doing your job. You're like, yes.
And that's what we were going for.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is quite interesting. So when they first put him on there and you saw the light emanating from below, I thought it was almost like he was going to be roasting Mando initially. That was the
you were thinking Kalima.
I was thinking the same thing though too, because I knew he had to get in that thing and it was not comfortable.
Right.
It does have a very kind of spit type feel to it.
Yeah. So at first, that's what I thought.
This guy totally gave me Grievous vibes.
Just give it a year or two, and that thing will be marching down Main Street on one of the Disney parades, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, that would be cool. Yeah, he's all CG.
He's got.
Well, you definitely have the obviously the callback to Grievous right there, but when he's in his paw right there, the spikes coming on, he totally reminded me of a Randall Boggs from Monsters Inc.
Oh, yeah.
He has that kind of body language.
Thank you for the segue to my next question. So we've asked this for a number of people. This is what we call like the Disney hat trick, or the Disney triple play. So you've worked obviously on Star Wars, you've worked on Marvel. I think you've done a little bit of work, I think I saw on main Disney. I think you're listed for an IMDb for 8 Below.
Oh,
But
yeah.
If you could play or create something in the main Disney to complete that hat trick, who would it be? What character would you want to do, or what property would you want to work with?
Oh. I don't know. Oh.
See, I like to
all the Narnia stuff, so I felt like that was
yeah.
But okay, Disney. What? Oh, I'm stumped on that one.
See, it's all right. Is that happens sometimes, but we would love to see you get into to something, and some of our beloved, possibly Monsters Inc. creatures.
God, those would be fun to make. Those, oh my gosh.
How cool is this? You can see Grogu actually like working on the entire pod, like he using
operating it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's driving it now. I like that.
And then he's like, I got to go up now.
So that was a good question. That was a good question. Actually, they did. I think it was in the Screen Crush. Was there or was, I'm not sure it was Screen Crush theory, but why was he told to go see Bo-Katan and not to go see Boba? And go see, that I thought that was actually an interesting.
I read it as because she's close. She's
a short flight away.
Sort of on the way.
The foreshadowing, he pointed out when he's talking about the nav that the moon that she's on is right there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only place he knows how to get to, since he just now learned how to drive.
Yeah. He's pointing to his GPS. He's programming the GPS and saying, "This is where we're going."
There you go.
I need to update my home built pram. This is one the Kuehl style that I built. Now I have to do
that's awesome.
I need to do the new version with the cool convertible.
There's
another version that I built as well.
Oh, those are so good.
That's the original style. This
you made
99-cent store bowls and some foam.
Oh my God, I love that.
So I love the windows here. It reminds me of the windows in Clone Wars Season 7 before Maul and Ahsoka destroy them.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of animation references in this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, what did Brendan say when he goes up to Dave? Oh, none of that animation shit.
The cartoon stuff.
Cartoon stuff.
Another S word.
So, while we're in this scene, question: any involvement with the Bo-Katan costume, dressing?
I have not done anything on the Bo-Katan costume. The droid, we make all the droids at Legacy, and Mike Manziel usually puppeteers those,
Hmm.
and like attach things to his arms and his legs, and when he goes, it goes.
Right.
So in a recent interview, Katie was asked, and this isn't a spoiler, it's out there, you can watch it. Katie was asked a question, if Bo-Katan could alter her armor in any way, would she? And she said, I can't answer that question. I'm going to avoid that question. So we were all, ooh, what's going to happen to Bo-Katan's armor and her costume?
I know now I'm trying to remember if anything happens or not. Or was I just
Could have
unobservant?
just been being silly. You never know.
I wonder if she played this. I wonder if she played this as if she was like, going back to her hometown and noticing the stores are changed, the restaurants are gone, that her childhood, and now she's like,
what
wow,
happened?
what happened?
Yep, went downhill.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a great interview with her from Emerald City Comic Con this past weekend. There was a Night Owl reunion with Mercedes and Simon as well, and she was talking about like her favorite character is Jar Jar.
Oh.
Yes, Dave's lighting up, but she absolutely loves Jar Jar. Mercedes was saying Maul, and Simon said Han Solo. But it was just very interesting seeing her say that. But I'm so happy for her because her originating the character and being able to go live action with it is probably one of the biggest honors that she could possibly ever have.
Yeah, I love that too, because that not everybody gets to do that, and I like that she's always been that character.
I mean, it's very Starbucks-esque if you're a Battlestar fan as well, so it kind of made sense in that sort of capacity. So not honestly typecasting, but still was in that vein.
Yeah.
I like how Grogu's leading the way.
I see what you did.
To take you back to Pops.
And you're in great company. You mentioned earlier on one of the first things you remember about Star Wars was R2. Now, Jon Favreau's favorite character has always been R2.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
He actually said that if you watch Gallery from in season 2, that when they were writing it, and he was actually more giddy about the fact that he got to play with R2 than the fact that Mark Hamill was going to be on set.
Oh my gosh. I was excited about both. I got to actually play with R2 also, and during one of the scenes do a little puppeteering on him. So
we had Christine on a couple of weeks ago for the Fett episode. I know that like she was in the suit for Fett, but was there anybody in Mandalorian, or was that mostly remote control?
All remote control. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they were like, okay, well, we need to use the one where there's somebody in it. And so, we knew immediately that it would be Christine.
Oh, that's awesome. What a sweetheart.
It's interesting to hear that. Kenny Baker famously said he spent more time horizontal than vertical in the R2 costume, if you want to call that, because of the original problems with keeping R2 upright.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And you can't catch yourself.
Right. I love how the underlighting under Grogu's chin.
Yeah.
Well, and the flattened ears out, the flattening out to just
does that. Yeah.
See his emotion and read it.
Yeah.
He's growing out. He's getting older.
Khan always did his ears too, so he always had little things he would do to emote.
That the acting that those guys do for that character is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So sells it. I mean, they've talked about it before about they could have done full CG or they could do more CG, but that puppet is the real deal. So
yeah, and they try to not CG over him unless they absolutely have to.
Right. I'm sure there's
that makes sense.
Handful of things that they can't do practically or don't get exactly as they want it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have it, but I don't think I've opened it yet. Is there the light in the Black Series Bo-Katan helmet? Anybody? I haven't opened
I
it.
don't know.
I haven't opened mine.
I would hope so if they're gonna.
Mine, no, mine doesn't have that.
I haven't gotten one yet.
Uh-oh.
You mean mine that's been signed by Katie? No, it doesn't have it.
Oh,
You just have to get that in. Just have to get that in.
I see.
Who's going to be at Celebration?
I have
two.
a Katie's signature on a helmet. It's
Spencer and John will be there.
Do you mean out of us?
O's helmet.
or the guests.
Original
Both.
appearances.
Okay, so John and I are going to be there because we're running Bunta Eve while we're over there. As far as guests are concerned, we have Aiden Cook, Andy Serkis, Annabelle Davis, Anthony Daniels, Ashley Eckstein, Billy D, Brian Herring, Carl Weathers, D. Bradley Baker, Des Lawson, Ewan, Femi Taylor, Giancarlo, Gwendolyn Christie, Hayden, Ian, Indira, James Earl Taylor, Eunice, Katie, Mads, Matt Wood,
There's a
Michael
laundry
Carter,
list.
Michael Edmonds, Mike
Yeah.
Quinn, Ming Na, Rosario, Simon, Vivian, and Warwick Davis.
Heavy Return of the Jedi presence, Dawn. Not
Everybody knew that
much
was
from Book of Boba Fett. I think Ming Noir's the only one,
Yeah.
I believe. But then fair amount of Mando principal actors.
That's
So it's interesting. We were talking about this the other day because the Brits want to see the American actors over, right? Because they don't get to meet them. And we want to meet the Brit actors because we don't get to see them over here. So
Oh yeah. Especially if you want something signed.
How awesome is this? You saw earlier that Din Djarin is still having issues with the Darksaber, but you have Bo-Katan, who's so smooth.
Yeah, she just goes ham with it. It's just picks it
Oh,
up and
yeah.
it's like nothing.
So that droid head thing with the eyeball in it, when it ran away, totally gave me Rocketeer helmet vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
or if next time we talk to Hal Hickel, is remember the pirate whose head got chopped off that had the snail shell over his head, and then when he chopped off the head and Deadman's chest, it started crawling like it was a snail.
Mhm.
I wonder, does anybody know? I mean, is that does he just want his blood for himself? Or I wonder what that was about.
I don't know.
I thought it was like plasma.
So let me back up a little bit from the I forget what she calls the creatures, the creatures that used to live on the outskirts of the city that are now in. When you're making the costumes and the suits for those, and you know
the Alamites, these guys.
yes,
Alamites.
the Alamites.
Hmm.
So when you're making those, and you know that it's going to be such an action-oriented scene, like how do you build in like durability or something, or do you just thrash a bunch of them every time you do this?
Yeah, you try to reinforce some parts, but it is foam latex, so it's gonna get nicks and tear a little bit, and then you just have to repair it at the end of the day for the next day. And sometimes there's not too much you can do, but if you can do a layer of latex over the palms to make those stronger, we'll do that. But yeah, a lot of it's just repairing day after day after day.
So we go back to that infamous story. I won't go into the detail of it, but Brendan was telling us how Giancarlo used to go through a ton of props because he just hauled butt, if you like. He didn't hold back.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably gives you guys a nightmare.
That is the sound of someone who has had more work made for them by the
I felt really bad for the guys in the prop department, because sometimes you can just see them going through gun after gun after gun, and then they're putting something back together so it can be used, and then in the meantime the other one gets broken, and I was just like, oh, some days I feel for them.
And the time crunch, right? You've got to get this done within an hour.
Oh
Get it
yeah.
done.
Yep. Sometimes you have like less than 5 minutes.
Wow. See, we have no concept of that. My target might be 2 days, a week, a month. Gotta get it done in 5 minutes. Because
Yeah.
that's what Nick Maley was telling us about. When he was a guest on one of our shows, he said you can be sat around for days, and then all of a sudden,
Hurry up and wait.
boom, you've got to get on with it right away.
Oh yeah. And sometimes there's a weird, I kind of like it. I mean, it's stressful, but sometimes I like that all of a sudden, oh God, you got to fix this and make this work again.
Adrenaline.
And you got
creative.
as fast as possible. And other times it's really horrible. It sucks. But other times I'm like, oh, we did this and it worked.
I kind of like this, this softer, defeated side of Bo-Katan. It's very relatable because if you saw, when you saw her last time, she was, spitting fire, and I do this, and then she, was left with nothing, and now she's, I want to say, humanized a little bit.
Yeah, she's like humbled a little bit.
Yeah.
And what's the thing going on after people are watching it? They're like, "Ooh, is this going to be the big love interest of season 3?"
Oh, who knows?
Is it going to be like the Raylo that we really didn't get?
No.
We need Raylo.
No.
Shirtless Mando.
I'll cancel my
Oh my
Disney Plus
God.
subscription if
He
it goes
can't
that
take his
way.
helmet off, but
We can take his shirt off. Yeah, you got Din Swallow over there.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Pedro Swallow.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh my
there's a
God.
funny thing about another interview with Katie recently. She's like, "Yeah, after this episode, I'm technically a Disney princess."
oh,
Since Bo-Katan was the princess of Mandalorian.
right. Yeah, I guess it does make her a little princess.
It's funny to think about like how many people are actually like Disney princesses these days after all the properties that Star Wars. I mean that Disney has been over the last couple
Oh
of years.
yeah.
I know they own so much
Slinger.
stuff.
I mean, technically, if you want to say Frankenfurter could be a Disney princess now because that's a Fox property. So
Absolutely. I love the little like floaty glow light thing.
Jeff, get on it.
Oh,
So
I don't know about making it float.
I know, but the flashlight, you can attach a bag light to it. Okay, so
I could make
how much
something
of
like
this-
the orbs we did for Life Day that lights up.
how much of this suck is the fact that Din Djarin just got his ass handed to him, and then 2 minutes later, the dude basically drowns. Like, it's like, how's your day?
yeah.
Well, this is the fun thing that I find about like the levels of Mandalorian armor that we're figuring out is he can, because he did before, make his helmet airtight.
Seal it.
You
Yeah.
just, I guess, have to, but here Bo immediately jumps in, so it's like she automatically has the thing.
Well, that
And
reminds me
his-
also when Cosca Reeves did it in Mando in season 2 to save
Dove in.
the child, she dove right in as well.
and how does the jetpack work underwater?
He's just taking his off now.
I know we're getting too deep in this. I'm sorry, Don.
Yeah. No, you make me think of stuff I just accepted.
Because
the
it does,
questions.
right? Because it
You
does.
raise the questions we don't have answers for, so it's all good.
Yes. If you're looking
So
for answers to these questions, Monday night on Rebels Revisited, people who actually do research and
Might actually know.
so
Now
going
this whole thing right here. Sorry, I'm gonna get
It's
ahead
nice
of
rebaptism. I mean, that makes sense why they did the whole thing with Wesley Kimmel in episode 1.
and we're gone.
Yep.
And see, she
Go-
just immediately
They
puts it
imply
on.
one thing. Anyways,
going back to Dave's question a few minutes ago, Don, about which franchise that you haven't worked with, you'd like to work with. As long as it's not Star Trek, I'm fine with that.
Hey, no.
Hey, Picard is good.
We don't hawk the Trek. Sorry.
We hawk the Trek.
I have worked on it though.
See? Ha!
John's gonna
John.
turn off his camera now.
Yeah. Right.
And
not a fan, Don. Sorry.
that's okay.
He's a Trek hater.
What
To
do you
get
call
my
them fanboys?
SAG card, I did
A
some
Lucas
background
fan?
days.
Yeah. But this was like I mean, for us as Cantina people, yeah, Boonta Eve. But as a Star Wars fan, this was our DiCaprio moment. This was our like
That was
oh my
literal.
God.
I mean, this is like your throwback callback to the holiday special moment.
You sure about that?
No, I mean, they're
That's a
making
reference for sure.
it's a big water lizard, not.
It's a
Yeah.
mythosaur.
No, but seriously, I think she's in my mind, she's realizing there's another way to take over Mandalore without the Darksaber, and it's taming that beast. But what if Grogu tames the mythosaur like he tamed the Rancor? Like that's what's going through my mind right now.
Have I not said all along, Grogu is the Mandalore?
If Mark was on the chat, he
Yeah,
would
he
object.
is.
But
Yes. Well, once again, this has been an absolute fantastic episode. I mean, we're seeing some incredible. The artwork, the pixelation over here is absolutely incredible, and also once again, props to Brendan and Lateef for getting main cast credits.
Yep, finally. Yep.
And I was happy to find out that Rachel had directed this episode. I was just so thrilled. I was like, yes, this is just great work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I always love looking at these pictures at the end.
definitely.
The books that come out with it after the season, I mean, I have 2 of the cocktail books, and it's such a pleasure to flip through.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it just continues to fascinate me, the amount of work that they put into this. Not only, they've got the sketches, but when you're putting it in here, no, they're animating little bits of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You just saw him in the abyss. You saw that going down, working out, but yeah, there's Phil Tippett, which is awesome. There you are, Don. Rodian customer. That's a great name. Has one of the characters had names, or were just basically like Rodian?
I'm always a description, and so I told Paul Blake, I go, "You're the only one who's had a name." So maybe one day.
So I love going on as well. Seeing Joanna and Caitlin doing stuff as well, and friend of the group as well, JJ doing the stunts again. So that was pretty awesome.
Poor JJ. I feel bad for him. Every time I see Mando getting slammed into a wall or whatever, I just feel so bad for him. That poor guy.
Yeah,
I know it's his job, but I feel so bad every time I see it.
So Dawn, besides seeing your stuff on the shows and the movies, what's your most favorite thing about what you do?
Just actually building the stuff. It's just so fun to figure out, like, first like, oh God, how are we going to do this? And then you start to figure it out, and then it's just, and when it finally comes together from what it started, because sometimes we'll do this thing we call a garbage bag test, and that's just to show like a proof of concept, and you're just like, if you take a picture of that to the final ending product, it's satisfying.
And the one question that we ask everybody, and some people like to shy away from it, if they were to fight each other, who would win, Bo-Katan or the armor?
Ooh. Geez. Before I would have definitely said Bo-Katan, but then when you see what the armorer did in the first episode,
True.
Then I was like, oh, I didn't know she had that in her. So
talked a lot of game until you saw that.
Yeah. So
giant
I'm
Proved it.
on the fence.
crocodile gator, and she goes after it with a hammer.
Yeah. So
You
That was
gotta
meth,
use it.
that was Meth Gator.
Coming soon to a theater.
Coming soon to a theater near you. Yes,
oh my
absolutely.
gosh. Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
thing's
so-
crazy.
No, that we were talking about that last week. It was such a nice, well, nice, but to see the indoctrination of a foundling into the cult per se.
Yeah.
The helmet like this.
Yeah, and that's what that helmet. It was so cool, just to see obviously the different Mandalorian helmets. Seeing
Yeah.
basically, Tate and Emily forefront again with a big crew behind them, and
Yeah. And there were lots of kids too.
yeah, I noticed that. It was great seeing Wesley Kimmel coming back after when he was involved in Fett.
Yep.
And I know a couple weeks ago, Jon Favreau was on Jimmy Kimmel, and they spent a good portion talking about that being his nephew.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about that, and how they were, talking about the interview process and things that Jimmy didn't even know about his own nephew that John was letting him know, which was actually kind of cool about that.
Yeah,
But,
Wes was great.
No, it's great, guys. Yeah, any further questions before we close out for the evening?
So-
Amazing
Well,
work. I love your on-screen stuff.
Everybody's like,
Sorry.
thank you for coming. Glad to see you here, but not actual questions. So anybody here? What do you think?
Well, just following along with the question that Spencer had, and it's the question I ask everybody. So, Spencer was saying, in a fight between Bo-Katan and the Armorer, who do you think would win in a fight between Jawas and Ewoks? Because we have friends on either side. We have Lalani on one side.
Yep.
And we have Kevin Thompson on the other.
He's on the
friend of
other.
ours. Yeah.
I think the Jawas might win.
Ooh.
Oh,
The feisty.
That's
We
another
know
one-
more Jawas.
another
I think
one
they
for
would
the
gang
Jawas.
up on Kevin, and he wouldn't be a match for him.
Remember, John, fighting
four of
costs extra. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jawas.
We look forward to more Rhodians, so we'll keep an eye out for Rhodians
Hmm.
upcoming episodes.
Rhodians or Trandosians?
Aha.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Trandoshans might win.
They
They're
seem more
sharp
prevalent.
teeth. They're
Yeah.
a little bigger. Yeah.
So did you, gosh, I'm just looking through my list of questions. Were you involved with some of the dressing or costume designs or whatever for the Tusken Raiders in both Book of Boba Fett? Because for me, I know that we had Troy Kutzer and some amazing actors playing those parts, but I just think that they were brought more to life in Book of Boba Fett than any other season or series or movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think they were too. I dealt with them on season 1 of Mando, and then the new ones were done by Shauna, and Legacy did the first ones, and then she did the second ones. And so all of her costume set, dressers dressed those guys. But still, just being there because our other characters were there was it was cool to see. I like the backstory and getting to see what they're really like. And so that was my favorite part, was I just wanted to see like what they were really like, because before I never really knew much about them except, they were in the desert, and I just like the whole backstory.
And it's a different sex. Like, you were talking about, like, for example, the Jawas, you had the Jawas and then the off-world Jawas, which, they had the tans versus the grays and the different color eyes.
Red eyes.
And the Tuskens, we're used to the earthy tones of the beige, and all of a sudden we're seeing the blacks and the grays and the reds. Of this other sect of Tuskens.
Yeah, it was cool to see them, change up a little bit, and like you said, you could see that that was the first time I remember seeing females.
Mm-hmm.
And so
when we had Iad on with JJ a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about how he got beaten up by Joanna in that training sequence. So that was quite
Oh
hilarious.
yeah.
Talking of which, there's a photo opportunity. I think in MegaCon Orlando, not that I'm plugging MegaCon Orlando, which is Katie and Mercedes. I don't know if I want to go for that. I don't know, because they'll kick my butt.
Oh my
That's a
gosh,
great
yeah.
People.
And they did one with Simon as well at Emerald City. So they had the 3 night owls together. But that's a great one. But I'm actually very excited because talking about photo ops is when John and I are going to London, we actually have one with Rosario and Ashley Eckstein.
Oh.
So that's a Ahsoka, duo photo op.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is
that's a good one.
Fantastic. But John, anything you want to close out for the evening?
Nothing aside from just an absolute pleasure to get to know you better, Don. I'm really genuinely a huge admirer of your work. I think what you guys do is incredible, and it makes these seasons, these episodes come to life more than I think you'll ever know for us as fans. So thank you for your time. It's been amazing.
No, it's been really fun. It's fun to meet you guys too.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Oh, I just I love the fact that you have an amazing job, like John mentioned, being jealous of your title, that has these perks that allow you to be on-screen characters as well. That just sort of is the icing on the cake for already something that's incredibly amazing. So I'm very jealous of that. But I love everything that I've seen you do. So it's great to have you here, and
thank you.
hopefully we can have you back.
Yeah, definitely.
And Dave.
I mean, I've said this before with other people, and I'll say it again. I love getting the insight, the behind the scene insight of the creators of the stuff, the meat of what makes the show is not just you writing something down. Is, well, they've written something down and then you take it and you make it physical and actual, and now even get to act it out and really make it physical and actual. The fact that we have Star Wars fans who this is their ideal job, this is what they've wanted to do for their entire lives, who are doing it and making the content. That's my favorite thing to hear.
Yeah, couldn't ask for anything more, that's for sure.
That's incredible. Once again, Don, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we absolutely would love to have you on again, and we'll definitely talk after we go off the air about opportunities and everything of that nature. But thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We hope you're enjoying everything we're doing if we're watching Mandalorian season 3, and we have a lot of very special guests coming up in the coming weeks, which we will let you know as we go. A lot of great programming, including the Unifying Force coming up. Dave, is there a subject matter yet?
Yes, Unifying Force. We are doing part 2 of the culture of the peoples of Mandalore, because we got so much more content than the past 2 weeks since our last episode. So we're just going to continue that discussion and talk about that and how that relates to Earth-based martial cultures.
That's great. And don't forget the final episode before Star Wars Celebration Europe of Celebrating Autographs with Frank Rich this coming Monday. It will probably be I believe it's at a different time. I believe it's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. So tune in for that, and get ready for more information about Boonta Eve coming up, starting again on Monday. So once again, from Dave, from Jeff, from John, and our guest Dawn, we like to say good night, and this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Greedo shot first.
Fetus.
No, that is false.
I have that written on the pop. I had Paul right. I shot first.